Hi guys, it's Steph from IDRIVEACLASSIC, and today I'm over 200 miles away from home in what I was promised was going to be sunny Kent, but it's turned out to be grey, rainy and overcast Kent. But I did manage to get the vehicle that I wanted because we are here with this incredible Nissan S Cargo. If you've never seen one before, I'm not entirely surprised because they only ever made 8,000. They were only ever sold in Japan and only a few have been imported into the UK. So it's very exciting to be testing this car today and showing you in, well, I was going to say the flesh, but I guess the metal. In today's video, if you've never watched one of these videos before, we're going to have a look around the outside, under the bonnet, inside, tell you a bit of history about the vehicle, take you out for a test drive, and best of all, we also get to meet the owner, Martin, who's going to tell us why he's bought this crazy snail vehicle. So let's crack on. I'll take you around the outside and I'll chat to you a little bit about the Nissan S Cargo. Launched at the Tokyo Motor Show in 1987, the Nissan S Cargo is from that brilliant moment in time when Nissan created a range of standout, retro-inspired vehicles. Vehicles such as the Figaro, the Pao, the BE-1, and the S Cargo was part of that lineup. But very interestingly, it was the only commercial vehicle of this retro-inspired range. Now, if you're wondering where the inspiration came from, it came from the Citroen back catalogue, and in particular the 2CV van. And it was even jokingly named after the French word for snail, which is escargot. But apparently the S in escargot stands for small. But anyway, it's called the S Cargo. And it was a brief moment in time, but a vehicle that everyone seems to have an opinion on. People aren't even car people have an opinion on it. Now personally it's a big hit for me, but it's been dubbed by others as the ugliest vehicle ever made. Now I hope when you watch this video today you'll agree with me that it's far from the ugliest vehicle ever made, and in fact it's definitely one of the cutest. Now just like the UK, Japan has a right-hand drive setup, which means it's easy to bring JDM cars like this one into the UK and find willing drivers, because there's no element of learning a left-hand drive experience. Now these were never sold in the UK new, and there were only ever 8,000 ever made, and they were only ever sold in Japan in the cherry stores. A little bit again like those other Pike cars like the Figaro, they were only ever sold in the cherry stores, and it means that if you ever do see one in the UK, you'll know that it started life in Japan and it was never sold here new. Now, while styling is a big thing on these vehicles that are part of this range, and with the Pike cars, the engine options are limited, and this S Cargo was only ever sold with the E15S 1.5 single overhead cam petrol engine. It never had a manual gearbox, and it only ever had the 3-speed auto box, which I'm going to show you today. And if you're wondering what it was based on, because of course vehicles like this, I think the Figaro was based on the K10 Micra. These were based on the B11 Station Sunny Sentra vehicle. Now, two popular options that you could pay extra for on these were the porthole windows in the side of the van and the sunshine roof, both of which are missing from this particular van. Now, I've been told reliably that this is a good thing because time hasn't been kind to those sunshine roofs and they tend to leak and rot. So if you're watching this and looking to buy one, keep that on your checklist when you're going to have a look at them. The front seat on this one splits, which apparently is an optional extra, but some people say it was included as standard. But anyway, it does help out with the practicality element of it. Production came to a close in 1992 after the 8,000 units, and as the van was never intended to sit within the range and be continued on by something similar, it wasn't replaced directly with anything cool and retro. It's a standout, one-off thing from Nissan, and production simply ended and a cult classic was born. Now these vans are getting on in age. The 80s wasn't 5 minutes ago like I like to pretend it was, and it's supportive in a very limited way. So who would buy an imported van like this in 2022, and what would be the reason for it? So what I decided to do was catch up with the owner, Martin. He's not had the vehicle very long, he's only had it a matter of a few weeks, and I wanted to ask him, why would you buy a Nissan S Cargo? So over to you, Martin.
Hello, I'm Martin and this is my 1990 Nissan S Cargo. I've got a little collection of classic cars and I've always been keen on the S Cargo, so when this one came up I thought to myself, I've got to go and have a look at it. which is pretty lethal because every car I go and have a look at I end up buying, and sure enough I did. So went up to Bradford, bought this vehicle, came back home to Kent, and I've had to do a little bit of fettling to get it sort of up to standard. I've added the Cobra Super Slot alloy wheels just to jazz it up a little, because it had some 1990s Nissan Micra alloys on it which didn't really suit it that well, and done a few bits of mechanical work just to get it up and running and reliable, sort some more oil leaks out, and get a fresh MOT, which it passed with no advisories, which is always always pleasing to me. So yeah, really enjoy driving this vehicle. It's been a nice little addition to my fleet, very useful vehicle. I take the dogs out in it because there's a lot of space in the back for my my various beasts, and yep, really do enjoy driving it. So thank you.
Showing you this is probably the most beehive appropriate vehicle that we've ever had out on test. So if you can see up here, look how high this ceiling is. It's brilliant. I'm certainly not going to be hanging down into the beehive today. Now, one of the things that struck me when I first got into this vehicle was just how modern it feels, because it certainly doesn't feel like a vehicle that was designed in the 1980s. It feels far more modern. But as well as that, I feel that you can feel that French styling coming through, because if you look at this steering wheel, do you remember when we took that Citroen Visa out on test and it had that central piece coming down the middle connecting round to the steering wheel? I mean, I know that they did say that they were influenced by those old Citroens, but I mean, you can see it here really, even in this steering wheel as well. Now, one of the things that they've got right in this, and I think that they've really taken from Citroen, and that Citroen used to be so good at, is that they were the masters of taking a risk, inventing something special. And I think they've really done this with this S Cargo, because not only is it cleverly designed from the outside, and I love that rear light cluster with the indicator built in. I thought that was a really special detail that I noticed when I watched Martin drive away when we were doing that driving footage. I said, oh, that's really cool. But inside as well, I think is very cleverly designed. The only thing that really lets it down for me is it doesn't have much storage space. So you've got these tiny pockets down here in the doors, and instead of a glove box, you've kind of got this pocket where I've just put a few of my bits. But as you can see, apart from getting that battery pack and a charger and a phone cover in there, you're not really going to be getting too much in there, which I think does detract slightly from the vehicle for me. Now, coming into the centre, we do remember that this is a commercial vehicle, or was certainly intended to be, so it's not going to have all the bells and whistles that you might expect. So this centre console has got your 3-speed auto gear lever there. You've got what I guess is kind of what, an ashtray. You've got the ashtray there, but oh, I was going to say, I didn't think we had a cigar lighter. We've got one over here. I kind of expected those to be together. Coming down into that, you have got your aircon and your heating system. So that is something I would say that I'm probably going to be particularly jealous of as we come into summer, is that Martin has aircon and that I don't. And then coming down there, you probably would have had a cassette player, but it's now sporting a CD player. Coming in front of you, it's all very simple. You've got that umbrella handbrake. On your left hand side there, you've got your 2-speed wipers with intermittent, and it's just a pull for your washers there. On your right hand side, you've got your indicators and you've got your lights. And in the centre there, you've also got your hazard warning switch. So it's all very simple, as you can kind of really grasp. You've got your cigar lighter down there. You've got your heated screen, and again, just another little miscellaneous pocket. Now, one of the things that I found really strange, because I've already filmed the driving segment on this one, is where the speedo is. I guess if you're used to a modern Mini, you're probably used to it being there, but I kept looking in front of me instead of to the centre. But of course, if you think about some of these retro vehicles that were very much the inspiration for these, a lot of them did have central speedos, so it's quite a cool little feature there. And something that I will mention is, and we don't get up to the heady highs of 60 odd k, 100 kilometers, 60 odd miles per hour, 100 odd k. But one of the things that I will tell you is is that when you do hit that point, there's a bit of like a chime that goes, and it's to warn you you've hit that point. And I think it's something to do with the speed limits in Japan as to why that's there. But quite nice, I think, to still have that on there. You've got your fuel gauge there, and you've got your temperature gauge, but ultimately it is very, very basic, which I do particularly like. But if you're somebody who values tech over style, it may not be quite enough for you. So that's really everything we've got in a nutshell in here. What I'm going to do now is start the vehicle up for you. I would say it's an average noise in here. It's not particularly noisy. I'll give it a rev for you. Kind of about where you'd want it to be. So what I'll do is I'll take you around to the back of the vehicle and we'll start it up, and you can have a listen there too. We are now going to go for a little drive around Kent. I'm going to go quiet because I want you to hear this auto box. Now I hope that's come out at home, but I don't know if you can hear it. It comes up through the gears really, really quickly, and it's far more responsive from an auto box of this era than I was expecting. Because remember, whilst it looks modern outside and it is a 1990 car, it is still a car which was very much designed in the 1980s. Now I know that the eagle-eyed of you at home that are watching are going to notice that annoying little bit of wiper blade that has decided to separate itself from the wipers on this journey. But look, it's one of those things, we're just cracking on. It wasn't like that when I set off, so sorry Martin. Now as we're coming over this road, which I don't know if you can hear, it's really rocky. The car is very much taking it, or the van is very much taking it in stride. It feels far more modern a driving experience than I was expecting. It's comfortable inside. You've got two generously proportioned size seats in the front. So they've not done that irritating thing that they do in a lot of vans where they split them down into three rubbish sized seats just to compromise that space and shoehorn another seat in. They've just made a really bold decision and said, well actually we're just going to put two seats in the front, and all the better for it, because not only are the seats generously proportioned for a wider bottom like my own, they're also very sumptuously upholstered, which is not something you usually expect from a commercial vehicle. Usually it's very much cheap and cheerful, get in, and it is what it is. But these, the seats are very springy, very bouncy and very comfortable. They're also upholstered very well, because this might be a commercial vehicle, but sometimes when you get vehicles of this age, they start being costed or they haven't really been used for their purpose. But until Martin bought this a month or so ago, it was still being used as a commercial vehicle. And so the seats have lasted very well. The whole vehicle's lasted very well actually, to say that it's been used for its intended purpose until very recently. Now the driving experience itself is also very comfortable because you've got great visibility, you've got a big screen here, you've got a well-sized rear view mirror. The back doors have got those big windows in, so you can just look in your, well, back window, you can look in your rear view mirror. You've got full visibility across the whole back. So even though you haven't got these optional extra portholes in the side here, these mirrors, this rear view and that back window mean that although the sides are compromised, you don't actually feel it, and you don't feel like you've got such a blind spot as you do in some of these modern vans. The one thing that I do think takes away from it, it benefits it style wise, but it doesn't benefit it as a commercial vehicle in this country perhaps, is the fact that your highest point is actually like above your head, which isn't really where you want it if you're using it for a commercial vehicle. Really, you'd want your biggest space over that luggage area so you can get as much in as you want. It also does detract from how you'd store it in the UK. So a lot of the garages in the UK, your standard size ones, wouldn't be able to take this because of the top height of where that roof line finishes. I know that I wouldn't be able to get it into my garage at home, and Martin said that he can't get it into his either. So if you're watching this video and you're thinking of buying one, just measure that door before you get it, because otherwise you might get an unwanted surprise when you get home. Now the brakes are pretty sharp, the handling is all there because of course you've got that power steering, and it's nice power steering as well. You're not overcompensating, it's just where you need it to be. The 1.5 engine means that it's responsive enough to keep up with modern traffic. Now people might say, well Steph, your top speed's only 80 miles an hour on these. Does that not take away from it slightly? Well, in modern Britain, you're not going to be getting up to 80 miles per hour. And where Martin lives, down in Kent, he's not really touching the motorways. And the motorways he is touching, motorways like the M20, the M25, you're not even getting up to 60, let alone 80. So that lack of speed there isn't really something that detracts from the usability. And I think that's kind of everything really. Suspension is bang on, it's exactly where you need it to be. The seats are well upholstered, very comfortable. But actually, there's one thing that I have forgotten to tell you about. There's two things actually. So the first thing is something really small that you may have spotted when we looked around inside. It's that floor mat which came as standard with the vehicle, which has a snail on. A really lovely little detail that I forgot to mention when we were talking about the inside. And the second is for those of you with a sharp eye, you'll have seen this when we looked in the back. It's those fold down back seats. So Martin demonstrated this for me, and as you can see, you can fold those down. Now they do have leg room, so you can get people in the back. So whilst you don't have your 3 seats across the front that you might have in a modern van, you've got 2 seats in the back. So realistically, you're not really missing out. And as well as that, this seat splits a little bit like those Metro back seats do, and it gives it even more usability. So would I have one? I'm kind of on the fence really, and I'll tell you why. Everything about it I absolutely love. It's brilliant to drive, it's style wise, it's bang on exactly where I'd like it to be. It's really cool, it's got that retro styling. But the one thing that stands in the way of it being a vehicle that you could use every day or consider for a long-term investment is the parts availability. So of course none of the panels are shared with anything else, and there were only 8,000 ever made. So you then put yourself in a position that you're buying into a vehicle that if somebody hits the side of you or something happens, you're going to have to try and find those panels, and they're not necessarily the easiest thing to find. Service parts are very easy to find. You can find all the bits that get shared with the Sunny and a few other bits and pieces, but ultimately it is a bit of a ticking time bomb parts wise. So if you are looking for one of these, the 2 things you need to bear in mind are: what does it come with? Does it need anything interior wise, panel wise, because you know you're not going to be able to get them, and also where are you in terms of storage? Are you able to store it? But apart from that, I absolutely love it. It feels so much more sprightly, so much more modern than I expected. It's a delightful little thing. It's very unusual, and this is that era of Nissan that I absolutely adore. It ticks all the boxes. I just wish we had the parts supply to back it up. So that's it from me today. It's been lovely to introduce something completely different, totally strange and utterly enjoyable to the channel. I've enjoyed taking you out, and next week we're in something very different, and I think you're very much going to enjoy it. It's a little bit more traditional and it is British. So until next time, when we come back and we do another review, take care and drive safely.